know what that is right there? The finish line. All this area over here, done, waste, backfilled. But this right here is the line of pay. And you can see there's not much left. And that is a damn good feeling, my man.
Yeah. Imagine you invest your entire career earnings, a whopping $15 million, that is 125 crores rupees, on a piece of land where there is no solid evidence. And no one has found anything special before. That is what Parker Schnabel did. Dominion Creek, a desolate land covered in snow, where others were afraid to even step. But Parker felt something, an intuition that no one took seriously. Even his own people were wondering, has Parker gone crazy? The machines, the fuel, the team, everything was on the line. And this was no joke. Just one wrong decision, and Parker could lose everything. But then, after just a few days of digging, the land quietly revealed a secret. Things were found that no one had expected, nor prepared for. Is that place really a hidden mine of 80,000 ounces of gold? Or is all this just a rumor, an illusion? The thing that the team found was not just gold. There was something in it that was scary, something that even Parker's eyes were wide open after seeing. This is not just the story of a gold rush. This is the story of a gamble that will either make Parker the Gold King or take everything away. Now the decision is in your hands. Do you have the courage to look? Because what Parker dug up was probably not just gold. It was a secret. If you're curious to uncover the truth with us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and turn on the bell icon. Because the real story is just getting started. When Parker Schnabel decided to dig at Dominion Creek, his team's reaction was exactly what you'd expect. Silence, sidelong glances, and then whispered questions. Is this really smart? So much money, so much effort, all on a suspicion? Some openly said, "Boss, this is too much of a risk." Parker listened to everyone, but never backed down. His answer was clear. If we don't do it now, we'll never do it. And then began the most expensive gamble in history. With the first light of day, the machines were called in. Bulldozers, excavators, water pumps, the whole setup was ready to tear through the Yukon's icy ground. But Dominion Creek wasn't as easy as Parker had seen at Scribner. The ground was frozen, and going down meant constant fuel consumption, constant maintenance, and ever-rising costs. Thousands of dollars were being burned every hour, and all they got in return was mud and rocks. The tension among the team was clear. Operator Steve once said, "Did we come here to find gold or lose our minds?" Parker himself was quiet, but his eyes had a sparkle that no one else had. "There's something here. I can feel it," he said. The digging went deeper by the second week, but the results were still zero. And then the debate within the team began. Some crew members suggested that perhaps it was time to turn back. Their argument was, if nothing was found at this depth, then there was little hope going further. But Parker flatly refused. "We can't stop halfway," he said. "Even if this gamble proves wrong, at least we would have tried our best." But the question still remained. Was Parker really on the right track? Or was he going to waste $15 million and an entire season? It wasn't just the sound of machinery that filled the cool air of Dominion Creek. There was fear, hope, and a silent question. Are we close to treasure? Or just digging ourselves in? Parker Schnabel's story was no ordinary one. At a very young age, he had accomplished what many experienced miners had failed to do at Scribner Creek. Thousands of ounces of gold in a single season, millions in profits, and most of all, a team that believed in him. But times were changing. Scribner Creek, once Parker's strength, was slowly losing its luster. The land that once yielded gold was now nothing but mud, rocks, and useless digging. Old claims had nearly been abandoned. The places that had yielded easy gold had now dried up. Each drill brought poor results, and each report brought a new worry. Parker understood now. The land in the Yukon was not always kind. Gone are the days when you just dig, and the truckloads, Parker once said. The team was beginning to feel this way. Where previously big nuggets were found every week, now only a few flecks were found, even after hours of digging. The crew's morale was breaking. Exhaustion and stress were clearly visible on the faces of machine operators, drillers, and the rest of the team. The work was the same: running heavy machines, battling mud, digging in one place for hours. But the hard work was no longer being rewarded. Some began to talk among themselves. Maybe Parker is thinking too much now. We need a new location now. And Parker knew it. He had squeezed Scribner as much as he could. Now, something big had to be done. Something risky. Something that would either take his legacy to greater heights or bring it down completely. Dominion Creek was the result of this pressure. On one hand, Parker's old victories echoed in his mind. The days when the team was happy, trucks returned loaded with gold, and people called him the Gold Kid. And on the other hand, the reality of today: empty trucks, tired staff, and rising expenses every day. This was the moment when Parker had to decide: will he stay in his old comfort zone, or will he start a new battle? He had chosen a new battle. But this battle was not just against sleep. It was against time, fatigue, and himself. It had been several days since the drilling began at Dominion Creek. The heavy machinery had been working day and night, but the results were almost nil. No gold flakes, no promising signs. Every bucket of soil, every truckload of mud, and each passing day was making Parker's $15 million costs even more expensive. Anxiety was spreading through the team. "Maybe this place is really empty," one operator whispered. The question was running through everyone's mind. Have we made the biggest mistake? But then, one morning, while the drilling team was working on a new location, a strange sound feed started coming in from the ground. Sensors started to vibrate and indicated the presence of a denser object at depth. Emma, Parker's geological analyst, stopped the machine and double-checked the data. "There's something here," she told Parker. Parker said nothing for a moment, just looked down, and then smiled. "Now, the real game begins," she said. The drill was sent deeper, and the sample that came out a few hours later raised everyone's hopes. There were some shiny particles in the soil, but it was not gold. It looked like an old oxidized layer of some metal. Small pieces of wood were also found, which was not normal. "This is not random driftwood. It could be part of some structure," Emma said. Now the team's thinking started changing. Fear was replaced by curiosity. Parker immediately called for old maps that were from 100 years ago, and in which Dominion Creek was never considered a potential site. But when those old maps were compared with satellite scans, one thing came to light. Some lines were going straight under the ground, as if some old tunnel or structure was hidden. Now Parker and his team started believing, we are digging something big, and it cannot be just gold. The team became active again. The machines started running fast again. And now every sound, every vibration was being listened to carefully. Because now it was not just about a treasure. Now the question was, have we opened the door to a forgotten history? That morning at Dominion Creek was different from any other morning. The machines were running as usual, but Parker himself was standing at the drilling site that day, his eyes on every movement of the machine, as if some intuition had held him. The depth was now more than 30 feet. Suddenly, the drill operator stopped the machine. "Something has hit," he said. There was a strange resistance in the machine, as if something solid, not soil, had come in between. When the sample came up, everyone's eyes were fixed on it. There was something strange among the soil. Some old pieces of wood, and a round, blackened metal. Emma picked up the sample and cleaned it. The wood was rotted, but the cutting was perfectly straight. It was not natural. "This is human work?" "It could be part of an old structure," Emma said softly. Parker took the sample in his hands. It was heavy. There was also a strange metallic reflection inside, like a rusted piece of iron or copper. The team fell silent for a moment. Everyone understood. This was not just soil. Something was built down here, or still is. The digging picked up again, and over the next few hours the drill went deeper. The more samples that came out made this discovery even more exciting. Now, not only wood was being found, but some metal sheet-like things were also coming up. It could be a part of an old wall, ceiling, or box. Is this a hidden chamber of some treasure? Or some old safe structure in which something is buried? A theory also arose. Perhaps this is a Templar-style secret chamber, like the ones described in old maps. Parker's eyes were no longer afraid, but had a different sparkle. "We are just a couple of feet away from the truth," he said. The team was now beginning to understand that this was not just the discovery of gold. Something old, something historic, and perhaps something extremely valuable was buried here. But there was also fear. If there really was a structure underneath, how safe was it to tamper with it? Was it hiding a secret or a warning? Now, every digging was not just digging. Now it was like opening a door, behind which was either gold or a deep, forgotten secret. As the excavation progressed, things got weirder. First wood, then metal. And now what emerged from the depths of the structure changed the whole atmosphere. The team found a square piece of stone on which strange markings were engraved. It was not a language that Emma or Parker could recognize, but it had a pattern, like a code or a symbol. And then a wooden slab was found at some distance. A flat strip with faint burn marks on it, and engraved in it was a sentence, "Those who seek shall pay." The excitement that had been there till now suddenly turned into fear. Operator Steve was the first to say, "Boss, this looks like an old warning." Another member added, "This looks less like a treasure, more like an ancient trap." Parker was calm, but tension was visible on his face. He read that slab again and again, as if he was unable to decide whether to move forward or stop. Slowly, discussions started in the team. Is this the cursed ground? Is this the same place that is talked about in local legends? Parker had never taken those stories seriously, but now, when everything was happening in front of his eyes, he himself got confused. Only one thing was going on in his mind. If this turns out to be true, if this is an ancient sealed chamber, then are we going to open something that should not be opened? Debates started among the team. Some said, "We should stop here right now." Others said, "We have already come this far. Why go back now?" Parker was standing on one side listening to everything. He did not say anything, just looked towards the ground, and then spoke very softly. If this is a warning, then perhaps it means that something has definitely been hidden. And if someone has hidden it with so much effort, then that thing cannot be ordinary. The team became silent. This was the moment where the gold rush was no longer just a treasure hunt. It was now like standing in front of a door with no one knowing what was behind it. But opening it was inevitable. The cold, heavy air of Dominion Creek wasn't just a result of the weather. The deeper the drilling, the more pressure Parker and his team were under. The $15 million at stake, the ever-rising costs, the growing rifts in the team, and now those strange, frightening signs all began to take a toll on Parker's mind. During the day, he immersed himself in work, moving between machines, checking samples, but at night he sat alone, staring at sketchbooks and notes. "Parker, when was the last time you slept?" Emma asked him one day. He just smiled, a tired, lost smile. The team was beginning to fall apart. Some were physically exhausted. Machines were breaking down daily. Some crew members were suffering minor injuries. But the real toll was on the mind. Everyone was wondering, is this all really worth it? Operator Steve, who always stood by Parker, now started saying, "We can run the machine, but what we are getting, this is not normal, boss." Parker started feeling that the team was not believing his words. He started getting isolated. But one thing was still alive inside him: that stubbornness. He used to think, if I stay here, everything will go in vain. One night, when everyone in the camp was sleeping, Parker went alone to the site where the mysterious slab was found. He kept sitting there, holding the soil in his hand, feeling the ground. Am I wrong? Or am I just a little more sure than everyone else? Parker was realizing that now this game is not just about the machine and gold. Now it was a test of his patience, faith, and leadership. He called the team the next morning and said one thing without any script. "I know things are scary, but I promise, if we finish this route, we will return with not just gold, but something that will change the history of the gold rush." After a few moments of silence, Steve came forward and said, "Okay, boss, let's finish what we started." Now everything was at stake: money, hard work, relationships, and maybe even his own courage. Weeks of digging, sleepless nights, millions of dollars worth of fuel, breaking machines. And now, Parker's team had finally reached the place where the real secret was hidden. As the drilling team dug into a certain part of the ground, the sound of the machine suddenly changed. Not of friction, but of hitting something hollow. The machine sank down and then became very light, as if it had gone into a void. A spark flashed in Emma's eyes. "Guys, we've hit something hollow," she said. Parker stopped the machine. Manual sampling began. The first bucket that came up did not contain just soil. It contained a stone seal-like object on which code-like figures and faded markings were engraved. Steve said softly, "This is not a gold mine. This looks like something ancient." Parker himself went down. While removing the soil with his hands, he saw that hard surface, a stone door, which someone had closed centuries ago. "What is this? A time capsule?" Emma pointed to a thin metal line on the edge of the door, some alloy like copper or bronze, and then they did what everyone was waiting for. The door opened. As the stone cover was removed, a thin layer of gas wafted out from inside, smelling old, damp, and dark inside. When the torchlight was shown inside, everyone gasped. There was a large wooden box, probably a safe. There were pieces of metal scattered around it, and some things that looked like inscriptions. Parker himself went to the box. Hands were shaking, but eyes were sure. When the safe was opened, there was a gleam of gold. But not only that, there were also some very ancient documents in it. The script was unrecognizable, but preserved. And an object, what looked like an amulet or seal. a symbol, perhaps associated with some secret society or old order. Emma said softly, "Parker, we have found something very big. This is not just gold. This is history." The team was silent. Parker kept looking at the ground and then said, "Now I understand. Things that remain hidden for years are not just because they are valuable, but because they may not be ready for the world." Parker sat in front of the open vault, silently, as if he was still trying to comprehend what he had actually found. The team's faces were tired, but also a sense of fear and respect. Dominion Creek was no longer just a mining site to them. It was a deep history, perhaps buried on purpose. Emma was still taking photos of the amulet-like object. She said softly, "We've touched something that probably hasn't been touched in ages." Steve repeated the question that was on everyone's mind. "Should we even dig this up?" Parker didn't answer. His eyes were looking off into the distance, as if he was thinking, have we found a treasure, or have we opened the door to some danger? Now the question here wasn't just how much gold was found. The real question was, whose was this old amulet? What era did those documents belong to? Was it just a treasure or a warning? And the biggest question, should Parker keep digging? Because Dominion Creek has certainly yielded a treasure, but it has also opened up questions that no one seems to have the answer to. This story could become the biggest turning point in gold rush history. Or perhaps the beginning of a new story. Now the question to you, what do you think? What did Parker find? Is it a hidden treasure or clues to a centuries-old secret society? Comment below. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because there's still a lot to be revealed. Press the bell icon so you don't miss the next episode. Because friends, this isn't just a story of gold. It's about a door that should never have been opened.